Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Your Excellency, I'd like to start by thanking yourself, the OIC, and all honorable members of the OIC for your support for Pakistan during this difficult time. The OIC has really emerged as the moral conscience of the world in this time of increasing conflict. The clarity and consistency with which this organization has continued to raise the voice for the people of Kashmir is also duly appreciated. Your Excellency, as yourself and the members of this esteemed forum will be well aware, there was a terrorist attack in Indian-occupied Kashmir, for which Pakistan and we all express our sincere condolences for the victims of terrorism. I believe that the countries that make up the OIC have suffered the worst at the hands of terrorism. As I look around this table, I see the honorable member from Palestine, see the honorable member from Iraq, ourselves in Pakistan, on a daily basis have been a victim of this terrorism. We are united in condemning terrorism in all shapes and forms. And similarly, we should be united in condemning the increasing use of the word terrorism as a wolf whistle by hegemons or wannabe hegemons all over the world to justify illegal acts of repression, violation of sovereignty of Islamic countries. This took place in my country few weeks following the terrorist attack in Indian-occupied Kashmir. To this day, the Indian government has not provided any country who is a member of this organization, any country in the international community, nor have they been able to share with Pakistan or indeed with their own citizens that who were these terrorists that conducted this terrorist attack in one of the most militarized zones on the planet in Indian-occupied Kashmir. They have been unable to share with us if they've identified these individuals. They've been unable to share with us if they've taken any action against said individuals. You will all be well aware that the Prime Minister of Pakistan, at the peak of this crisis and following the terrorist attacks in Indian-occupied Kashmir, offered India publicly that Pakistan was ready to be part of any impartial international inquiry to get to the bottom of this. This offer was made in good faith and with good cause, because we were so confident that our hands are clean, that not a single Pakistani was involved in this terrorist attack, that we offered ourselves up for accountability before the international community. Unfortunately, India rejected this offer and decided instead to attack Pakistan, violate our sovereignty, kill and maim innocent men, women and children. They targeted civilian infrastructure. They targeted worship places. They targeted energy infrastructure and water infrastructure in their initial assault that they claimed was a targeted strike against terrorist, so-called terrorist infrastructure within Pakistan. Again, up until this day, the Indian government is unable to tell you the name of a single terrorist that they killed in this attack. For too long, the Muslim world has tolerated this sort of behavior, and I am immensely grateful to yourself, Your Excellency, and to this body for their strong and unequivocal stance on this issue in our time of need. We also appreciate the role of many countries within the OIC, particularly the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other countries within the international community, including and not limited to the United States, for the role everybody has played in encouraging and facilitating a ceasefire between India and Pakistan. But I would like to use this opportunity to emphasize that the world is a less safe place today following this conflict. We are a less safe place today in spite of this ceasefire, because the threshold for a full-on military conflict between two nuclear-armed states has increased and not come down as a result of this conflict, and as a safe place today in spite of this ceasefire, because the threshold for a full-on military conflict between two nuclear-armed states has increased and not come down as a result of this conflict and as a result of this ceasefire. The new precedent that the Modi government, the Indian government, the RSS government would like us all to abide by is you do not need proof, you do not need evidence, you just need an accusation to become judge, jury and executioner when it comes to the lives of the people in the Muslim world. I appeal to the OIC to take a united stance against this decision that will result in not only in an unstable South Asia, but also make the world a more dangerous place for the rest of us. I'm sure we can all agree that this is a grave injustice, not only to the people of Pakistan, but also to the people of India, that we are to leave our fates and the fate of our two great nations in the hands of non-state actors and terrorist organizations. That any group can get up and conduct a terrorist attack somewhere in India, somewhere in occupied Kashmir or in Pakistan, and that would mean that they would force us, these nameless, faceless organizations, these cowards will force us to go to war. This is a dangerous precedent, and we seek your assistance in undoing this precedent, in helping us pursue our path to peace. Pakistan believes that dialogue and diplomacy are the only true paths for peace. Pakistan wants more cooperation as far as counterterrorism is concerned. We believe, as far as counterterrorism as a topic is concerned, more cooperation between India and Pakistan will result in us being able to deal with the terrorist menace within our borders, and India being able to deal with the terrorist menace within their borders. We also would like to take this opportunity to draw the attention of this esteemed organization towards another grave precedent that India is trying to set. As a follow-up to these terrorist attacks within Indian occupied Kashmir, the Indian government announced that they were holding the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. As you were all aware, the Indus Water Treaty is a gold standard as far as diplomacy is concerned. This treaty to share our waters has withstood many conflicts in the past. The very act of threatening to cut off Pakistan's water is a violation of the United Nations Charter. An implementation or acting upon this act would be perceived as an act of war from Pakistan's perspective. It is a grave injustice to the people of Pakistan and the people of India, who have been locked in perpetual conflict, generation after generation, over the issue of Kashmir, who've been locked in conflict over the issue of terrorism, that we are to damn future generations of Pakistanis and Indians to now fight over water. I appeal to this honorable and esteemed organization to take an unequivocal stance that India must abide by its international obligations under the Indus Water Treaty, The threat to cut off the water supply for 200 million Pakistanis must be condemned universally and across the board. We cannot allow for this precedent to be set. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, if we want peace in South Asia, permanent peace in South Asia, then we cannot ignore the issue of Kashmir. The legitimate rights of the people of Kashmir for self-determination cannot be denied. If the Indian government is going to continue to frustrate the aspirations of the Kashmiri people, if we're going to continue to allow this wound to fester, then it will continue to cause instability in our region and across the world. I would like to conclude by saying that my delegation's mandate is one of peace. We have come here in pursuit of peace. We seek your assistance, individually as member states and collectively as an organization, to help us in this endeavor, to establish peace in South Asia, to help us convince our neighbor that perpetual conflict is not in their interest, and that to pursue dialogue and diplomacy, to establish peace between our two countries, to work together to combat the menace of terrorism, to work together to combat the challenges posed by climate change, and to work together to address the ills that plague both our countries. I'd once again like to thank this organization and each and every member state for the role that they played throughout this conflict. Thank you, Your Excellency. At the end, we seek yours and all those who are willing to support us in these efforts. As far as the possible next steps, it is absolutely right to note that we all welcome and appreciate the ceasefire. And that is an important first step, but it is only a first step. In order to have lasting peace in South Asia, Pakistan and India must have a comprehensive dialogue. Can you believe that other than this ceasefire conversation, since the last attack in 2019 and until the latest attack in 2025, India and Pakistan have had no conversation about terrorism, no conversation about Kashmir, and no meaningful conversation. How can two nuclear-armed countries have no dispute resolution mechanism? India refuses to acknowledge the role of the United Nations. India refuses to acknowledge the role of the United Nations Charter. India refuses to acknowledge the United Nations Security Council resolutions. India refuses to abide by international law. India refused Pakistan's proposal for an impartial investigation into the terrorist attack that happened in Pahalgam. And today, India still refuses to have a comprehensive, meaningful dialogue with Pakistan. This is untenable. It is not only untenable for Pakistan and India. It is untenable for peace and stability in the region and peace and stability in the globe. Therefore, I urge you, as individual countries, as the OIC, all of whom have relations and positive relations, at least better than us, with our neighbor India, to prevail on them, that this cannot continue. We must talk peace. We must discuss the unresolved issues of the subcontinent. Of course, that'll include the issue of terrorism, of which we are all a victim. If Pakistan and India were to end finger pointing and were to commence cooperation to counter terrorism, you can write it down today as a guarantee. that if India and Pakistan work together to combat terrorism, you will see a drastic decrease in terrorism in the subcontinent. If India and Pakistan refuse to talk with one another about terrorism, then write it down today. We will see a drastic increase of incidences of terrorism in the subcontinent. As far as what are our next steps, we must build on this ceasefire, have a comprehensive dialogue, include the issue of terrorism, work towards establishing some sort of some sort of mechanism that is mutually endorsed by both India and Pakistan. Pakistan has a laundry list of complaints against India and terrorist attacks that take place in Pakistan, terrorist attacks that take place in Balochistan, terrorist attacks that take place in Pakhtunkhwa. We have evidence that we have presented before the United Nations of Indian involvement in such incidents and Indian proxies in such incidences. We would like to establish such a mechanism so that if I have any complaint, if Pakistan has any complaint, then we should be able to bring our complaint with the proofs to this mechanism, and India and Pakistan should be able to work together to get to the bottom of it. Similarly, I would like that if India has any complaint, any genuine proof, any genuine evidence, then share it with us, share it with this mechanism. Let's work together to combat this menace. As far as the issue of the Indus Water Treaty is concerned, I appreciate the OIC and almost each and every single member that spoke for condemning this issue, for condemning the weaponization of water. We cannot allow this to be the new normal. And while Pakistan is actively engaged in pursuing dialogue and diplomacy with India, if we are to work on new treaties, if we are to have a new dialogue, then surely we have to abide by our old treaties. And the first step to take Pakistan and India back to their position pre this conflict will be for India to start abiding by the Indus Water Treaty, stop violating the Indus Water Treaty, and continue to engage through the mechanisms available to address any of their concerns. Pakistan and India were exchanging letters, let us say, as far as the Indus Water Treaty was concerned before this conflict. At no time did Pakistan say that we're not willing to talk about the Indus Water Treaty. At no time did we reject this a proposal to talk about the Indus Water Treaty. It is India that has violated the Indus Water Treaty, that has violated international law, violated the United Nations Charter, and set a dangerous, dangerous precedent that they must take back. And finally, the issue of Kashmir. I wouldn't dare or dream to compare it to the plight of the people of Palestine. But they too have a right to self-determination. They have a right to justice. It is not for me in Islamabad to decide, nor is it for New Delhi to decide the fate of the people of Kashmir. It is for the people of Kashmir to decide their destiny. And India and Pakistan must work as facilitators for that. If you are to tackle the issue of terrorism, you must address the root causes. If India continues with its policy of suppression, if it continues its policy of collective punishment, if it continues to victimize the people of Kashmir, use its policy of collective punishment, if it continues to victimize the people of Kashmir, if it continues to use the wolf whistle of terrorism to demonize an entire population, then unfortunately, that environment will create more cannon fodder for terrorists to use tomorrow for their nefarious designs. So these are the three basic agenda items that we are appealing for, that we seek your assistance with, is to convince our neighbor to act like the great power it envisions itself as, and not like a spoilt child who cries wolf. If they have evidence, present that evidence. I lost my mother, Shaheed Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto, to terrorism, I will go and catch those people myself if they're within my territory. But the fact of the matter is that in this case, they are not. And as long as they continue with this politicization, it will frustrate the genuine efforts of Pakistan. It will frustrate the genuine efforts of members of this country who face this menace within their borders. The politicization of terrorism undermines the fight against terrorism. I want to defeat terrorism. The political leadership in Pakistan, the military leadership in Pakistan today, all of us have gone through the fire, if it were, as far as this issue is concerned. On the political front line, the political forces have faced these beasts, have called them out and paid a heavy price. On the military side, our military leadership have faced these beasts on the battlefield. They fought them in South Waziristan. They fought them in North Waziristan. They've come up through this conflict. There is no sympathy in any aspect, in any corner of the Pakistani state for such groups. Pakistan is not the caricature that India would like to present on their media and before the world. And we look forward to working with them, to working with the international community, to address the issue of terrorism, to address the issue of Kashmir, to restore the Indus Water Treaty and establish peace in South Asia and amongst ourselves. I thank you all once again. It truly means a lot to me and my people that we were able to gather here today. Thank you.